I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and I'm on the trail of the woman that wouldn't die. I'm in Shermanbury in West Sussex. I'm looking for a tree, an old oak tree. I don't know that the old oak tree is still here, or whether anybody actually knows which specific oak it is I'm looking for. It certainly isn't this. It's far too young. I'm in search of a tree that goes back to the Tudor period, and it was a pretty substantial tree then. These, judging by the leaves, are actually lime trees anyway. I'm on the trail of Jack Buckland, a man who tried to murder his mother. Jack Buckland was born in about 1520. By 1540 he was working down in Portsmouth as a carpenter. The legend says that he worked on the Tudor Rose, which we all know famously sunk in Portsmouth in 1545. I don't know whether Jack Buckland was a good carpenter or not, but by about 1540 he was destitute. We don't know why exactly, but we can hazard a guess that he'd spent too long in the taverns around the Portsmouth area, and maybe had given too much of his money away to the ladies of the night who frequented the place. Either way, he needed to come home and get some money from his parents. Now, his parents lived here. As I said, I'm in Shermanbury, and there is just up this road here an estate, and probably back in the Georgian period, there's a Georgian house up there that you can't actually get to and see very easily. This wouldn't have been here, but back in the Tudor period there was probably some sort of manor house here, and this whole area was covered in oak trees, but oak was being used for the shipbuilding down at Portsmouth. Now, Jack Buckland's father worked and had a house here. In fact, Jack Buckland's father had built his own house here on the manor, and he'd built up quite a business felling the trees for the lord of the manor to provide the navy Henry VIII was building. However, when Jack Buckland the younger returned home, now penniless, there was a tragedy awaiting him. And it was quite a major one as well, because when Jack Buckland got home, he discovered that his mother was a widow. His father had been felling as normal, had climbed up a tree, presumably to lop off some of the smaller branches, I don't know, but had fallen out of the tree and broken his neck. This left Jack in a difficult situation because he didn't get on with his mother, and his mother refused to help him. Well, this is a big oak tree, and it could very well be the one that I'm seeking. When Jack Buckland came home and put his difficult situation to his mother, she didn't want to know. She didn't want him at the house. She knew that he was a wastrel and would give her a bad reputation. So she gave him some money and told him to return to Portsmouth and work hard. Instead, he took lodgings at a tavern just down the road. It's called the Bull today, and it was called the Bull back then. And it was in a room at the back that he started to scheme. He wanted that house. He wanted the small fortune that his father had made from felling the trees. And more than anything, he wanted his mother out of the way. I have to say, this is actually a very beautiful walk, with all the frost on the ground, the crunchy floor. It's a lovely thing. I'll put a link on the website with a map to show the route that I'm taking. We left Jack Buckland at the Bull just off the A283, because it wasn't the A283 back then, but it was the road from London down to Brighton, or Brighthelmstone, a tiny little fishing village. And we believe that he had a pie that was made with rancid meat and made him ill. It gave him the idea that perhaps poison might be applied as a means to dealing with his mother. I have to say, this is rather fabulous. This is the River Ada, which cuts through the estate, and did cut through the estate back then. We don't know how the poison was administered. We do know that it was administered and given to her because her mother was reported to be ill for about a month, but she didn't die. Jack was running out of money. He was getting more and more destitute and more frustrated. So he needed to use more brutal means to get rid of his mother. In the pub, he met up with a couple of thugs. He paid them the last of his money. He told them that his mum was very religious and he knew that she'd be making her way to church on a Sunday morning. They waited for her. The idea was to grab hold of her, duff her up a lot and chuck her in the Ada. A woman was dragged out of the River Ada a week or so later, but it wasn't his mother. In a fit of drunken temper, he raced home. He grabbed hold of an old chair leg. He broke into his house, discovered his mother at the kitchen sink, bashed her over the head, knocked her unconscious. He dragged the limp body down to the water's edge and plunged her straight in, holding her face under. Well, it would have succeeded if it wasn't for a shout from a man, or two men possibly, on horseback. He looked up. There they were, bounding down towards him. In his fright, he let go of the body and fled. Luckily, he knew the area like the back of his hand, and he dived into some bushes and he evaded the horsemen. But then he started to panic because he was pretty confident his mother hadn't seen him when he broke into the house and whacked her over the head with the chair leg. But had he held her underneath long enough? He took refuge back at the Bull and waited. It was 2 days before he knew whether she was alive or dead. And it was bad news for him, but she has survived, and worse, she knew it had been him that had held her face under the water. Jack Buckland was now livid. He was so angry. This woman wouldn't die, and now there was no question he was going to make sure that she did die. He raced back to the house. He grabbed hold of her and dragged that person, kicking and screaming, out. Now, what I hadn't mentioned before was that Jack's father used to look after some of the deer on the manor because with all the trees, it was perfect place for deer to be found. And there was a small scaffold set up somewhere, not quite sure where his father would have practiced, perhaps with a bow and arrow. I guess that's how they would have done it, to take pot shots of the deer. And it was there to which Jack then dragged his mother, who was kicking and screaming, and in his livid, angry state, bound her to this thing before setting it on fire. Jack's mother died in the flames, and that was her demise. The woman who wouldn't die eventually did go up to heaven, presumably, and Jack, for a short while, was happy. He got what he wanted. He'd inherited the house. But of course it was short-lived. He was soon discovered. He had been spotted. The horsemen identified him. He was tried, and subsequently, back in the Tudor period, they did this thing to murderers. He was hanged from an oak tree somewhere on this estate. We don't know where. Possibly the tree behind me. Who knows? I hope you've enjoyed that tale, and I hope you'll come and walk around the ground sometime. It's all open to the public footpath here. I'll put a map on the website. Do check it out, www.baldexplorer.com. That would be great. In the meantime, don't forget to follow, like and subscribe, and why not give a small donation to help me keep producing these videos. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Till then, goodbye.